Say what?
All right, guys, I'm back honoring our crew members in Korn who make the shows happen. And right now, I'm talking to my friend Matt. He's the tour manager. I probably have aged you a little bit, right?
I'm 27. This is 90% you.
I have to have a 2 p.m. checkout.
4
o'clock checkout. I have to check in at a hotel.
As soon as the bus stops.
This is what happens. In the buses in America, the front door shuts. Boom! Shakes the whole bus. So as soon as we stop, I can't be on the bus and sleep because everyone's going to slam the door. If I tell them not to slam it, they'll do it for like a day, and then they'll slam it again. And so I can't sleep. I literally can't sleep in the U.S. So you kindly get me these hotels where you call them, and you're like, hey, I have a guy. He needs an early check-in, and he usually checks out around 4 p.m., 5, 6 p.m. So I'm in the hotel from like 6 a.m., 8 a.m., to 5 p.m., 6 p.m.
It's part of the gig. You know, everybody has their thing and their ways and the things that keep them comfortable and happy out here. And, you know, if it's as simple as getting into a hotel room and, you know, you're going to have a better performance and have a better time and experience out here, then that's just what needs to be done. It's not an extraordinary request. Can I have my Amex back?
You have it. I gave it to you.
I was supposed to be here for 2 weeks 6 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Because I only came in to cover for someone. I honestly came on board to get you guys through this, if you remember, a very odd segment of Europe. It was like Bratislava to a charter to like Istanbul to like Wolverhampton, England. It was this bizarre, like somebody just took a map and threw a dart at it, and that's where we're going. And I was like kind of afraid of it because I was like, this is a lot of moving parts. We had to take gear, band, crew in one plane to make one festival to the next. You know, we got there.
Okay, so you're growing up, you get into music. Mm-hmm. A very cool thing that nobody would know is that I think you're a better lead player than me. You can actually play lead guitar better than me. I'm not a lead player.
I don't know. We've never really played together. I just pick up your guitars occasionally and noodle. But, you know, I mean, what I've actually heard you play, like a lot of what I grew up on, because all of a sudden you'll just start playing a Dokken solo. You nailed every note, and I know, like, there's a couple solos that I can't. But I started piano at 6 and guitar about 11.
So that's what you were like when you're growing up. Were you like, I want to go on the road and do,
I would
music
turn
in some way?
I would turn pillows into a drum set when I was probably like 7 years old, like watching the inception of MTV, and just mesmerized.
Me too.
Mesmerized from what they were wearing to what they were playing to, and then eventually tone. And, you know, we got into guys, of course, like you and I, like George Lynch, and got into the real fine points of it, and like hearing tonality and songwriting. And then it just got to a point for me, it was like, you know, this isn't going to go where I want it to go.
Did you tour in a band? I forget.
I played local gigs. You know, I grew up in New York,
never like
in Connecticut and the New York City area, so we gigged. We never toured. And then kind of got to that 20-year-old, 21, and I just didn't feel it. You know, wasn't really...
That's crazy. Kind of, because some people would be like, dude, go for your dreams. You're a kid, and you're like, I'm not feeling it at 21, so what? I'm going to go into tour managing?
So I started, there was a club in Norwalk, Connecticut called the Globe Theater, and I showed up at this back gate of this club like every weekend and just waited for someone to notice me. I had no idea what I was doing, and I'd just move a case, and then they'd like kick me out, and then I'd go watch the show, and then I'd walk back after the show and be like, can I help you guys like load the truck? Like I had no idea what it was even asking for. And then eventually the production manager of this building, he's like, you know what, I'll pay you $60 a show to be a stagehand. And I felt at that time I couldn't get higher in my career. Like that was it. I'm in. 20 years old, and I was loading a truck at a club, and I, you know, with the laminate on, I just felt like a rock star. It was the closest thing I'd ever gotten. And then I just started going, you know, through the motions and got involved with a lot of, you know, local productions and art festivals and anybody who'd have me. And then I wrote a column for a little while for the local arts rag, and I was like circulation director for that, and going to, you know, any show I could go to. If I made $50 that week, I bought $50 worth of tickets. If I made $500 that week, I would go to enough shows to accommodate the $500
paycheck.
paycheck.
You were playing the whole time, like too?
Yeah,
you're jamming.
Yeah, it was everything. It was
just
everything was going on at once.
So you're saturating yourself with that lifestyle, that industry. You're like, you just wanted to be enamored and around.
Enamored. And I never partied. I never got involved with anything. And it was just like, the work. And then we actually, there was a band called the Average White Band who was huge in the 60s and 70s, and they're a funk band, R&B band, and they had found out about me locally, and they were like, hey, we're looking for a tour manager. I knew what it was, but I didn't know what it entailed. And they gave me this laundry list of things to do for this 2-week tour in the States. And I remember the first show I ever did was in Dallas, Texas. It was the first bus I'd ever been on. It was like a week after my 22nd birthday.
They hired a freaking kid?
Totally. So I remember I had to go into the promoter's office of this club to get what's called the Polestar. They had like the venue directory and like all these different books for like, you know, agent roster, and one of these books was kind of the mechanics of things, and it had like, you know, audio companies and bus companies. And I opened the book and I sat at this guy's desk and I started dialing bus company numbers. I had no idea. And I found a bus. And then they gave me a list of cities we're going. They said, book hotels. There's, you know, 10 of us. And I booked hotels. And I got through the 2 weeks. I have no idea how. I couldn't tell you what venue we played. And at the end of it, they said, do you want the gig? And that was it. I never looked back.
Did anybody ever ask you, Matt, we got a guitar player down?
Yes.
Fill in.
Yes.
Really?
Yep. The largest crowd I ever played for was in front of 28,000 people, and it was at Earth Day birthday in Orlando, Florida in like 2005, and I was tour managing the band Hinder at the time.
Hinder!
Lips of an Angel was
Yeah.
like #1. It was arenas. It was just crazy. And they had a fill-in guy, and the fill-in guy, something happened to him, and they were like, well, who's going to play the part? And kind of everybody in the room looked at me, and I was like, nope. And they're like, you got to play it. And I went out, and it was 28,000 people, and I played this one part in this one song, and I'm out there on the stage, and I was like, why am I out here? I said, I'll play this part, but I'm doing it from a stool, you know, off the side of the stage.
Oh,
and that's what I did.
You did?
So I'd get my ears, would be a guitar, the guy tech would hand it to me, I'd strum the, you know, the chords for however many, you know, bars there were of that particular song, and gave the guitar back and like went back to my office.
What a freaking waste. You had said
Here we go.
that you came to a Korn concert.
I did. Hair down on my waist, black leather jacket, probably a Slayer, a Megadeth t-shirt.
How old were you?
18 maybe. It was in Port Chester, New York at the Capitol Theater. And Megadeth was on whatever tour. We're all just huge fans. We're all playing in bands together. And hey, we're going to go see, you know, the show. And we got there early, and, you know, at Korn, I was like, well, whatever. No one really thought about it. And then these 5 dudes come out in like Adidas gear, dreads, and like bagpipes. And we just went, what?
What is happening
Like,
here?
this is never going
And
to
it
work.
was heavy.
Yeah.
And we're tuned down, and Megadeth like shreds, great players. I can never play like them. But our sound was like a different sound, right? And it was like, was it darker?
For me, coming from like my background, from like everybody from Zappa, you know, to anybody who's always like Eddie Van Halen, of course, anybody who's innovated anything, that's who I always, you know, just completely latch on to musically. Like, just go, wow, you thought out of the box there. So we went, it was like chunky. I was like, whoa. And then come to find out later that you guys actually tuned down a half step from B to A, which is just, you know,
We're extremists.
Yeah, you are. I mean, you could shoot an arrow out of that string tension, which is just this, you know. And so I like immediately, you know, gravitated towards it. Plus, I also dug the fact that you guys recorded at a lower register, where most metal bands like Megadeth were recording as mid-range. And I was like, that's amazing. And then I think I went to Toad's place next time, like 6 months later, to see you. And I remember your crew at the time was trying to set up this giant mirror ball.
Yep.
And it kept falling over like the whole show. But it was punk rock. It was goofy, but it was rad.
We're metal. We're heavy. We look like not the typical metal. So we want to bring a disco ball to a metal show. That was our thing, to mix it up.
Weird as it was great. And then I think that you guys then played Roseland in New York City. I think it was with Deftones maybe. And I was at that.
So even though we weren't shredding guitar players, you were respecting like the this is different. And
it was heavy, and I also, you know, like coming from that like Average White Band, that funk background too, and being around that, you guys have pocket, you got groove. It was just a new style. It was just different. Imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. So it was not funny, but, you know, to watch every band after you. If you don't have a 7-string, if you don't, you know, it was like you guys just like made this mold that everyone had to adhere to, and then, you know, but you guys really are the ones that kind of kept it going. So
pretty crazy.
Yeah, it was just weird getting a call. I'm like, Korn. I'm like, yeah, I'll hang with them for a minute.
And then it wasn't too bad. See,
yeah,
you hear stories, but we're not that bad.
I did hear stories, and I was almost like, nope. But I'm glad it worked
I'm
out.
glad you checked it out for yourself and not heard the rumors.
Nope.
All right, Chevelle's on, but thank you for everything you do. I'm doing
Thank
this.
you.
I'm doing this series because we couldn't do anything without all of you guys. So we love you.
Thank you for believing in me and the team, and trusting us with everything you trust us with, and giving us the opportunities to go to work doing what we love to do. Thank you, brother.
Say what?